Hi, I'm Raphael Heath, the Head of Geography at the Royal High School Bath, and this tutorial is designed to explain to everyone how to participate with the Geography World Record event that we've developed this year. It's an idea that I've been developing alongside Esri UK in order to try and get as many students as possible to participate in a mass geography investigation. This is the website we built around the event and various promotional materials. If you're watching this, it's probably because you've signed up for the event, but if not, welcome to it, and you're welcome to participate. The event is designed to take part any time during Geography Awareness Week, the USA's Geography Awareness Week, that is, the 17th to 21st of November 2014. This map here shows you all the schools in the world that have signed up. This little box here shows you that to current date, just before the week's about to commence, we have almost 230 schools signed up around the world somewhere. These circles show you which ones they are, and total number of students here about 32,000, over that now, students aiming to participate, but ultimately it'll come down to how many actually do actually get involved during the week itself. So this tutorial is designed to make everyone clear how to actually participate in the event. The event is designed to be as simple and accessible as possible, without any sort of sign-in or subscriptions or anything like that, and to be easy task that everyone can get involved in. If you open a browser and just put in GIS record 2014, all one word, and you can instruct students to do that. Relatively straightforward instruction there to the first site will come up as GIS record homepage, at least it does on my browser, and this takes you to the website, as I said, that we designed around the event to promote and explain the event to people. So you can see here there are various links on the front page that I've put now to help people get to the event. First one says that you can see all the schools that registered, which I just showed you, and there's a second one about registering your school here. If you can participate without registering, but it would be great if everyone did. If you register your school on that map, it means that your school will be displayed on our map of involvement, which will be nice for you and your school. But anyway, this is the bit I want to focus on: get your students to enter data. The easiest way to do it is to click on the link via this website, alternatively take this link, copy it, and put it into your school network or system, or email it to students as you wish. This is what comes up. I'll just show you what it looks like on our school systems. This is our school's homepage, and you can see I've just put the link up here, GIS Mapping World Record Event. Our students will open that. It will do the same. It'll open this link up. So whatever suits you is the best way to get it out to your students. This a data entry form is designed to work on all different platforms, hopefully, so hopefully you'll find it nice and easy to use. Some of you might be familiar with these forms. They're a relatively new development in ArcGIS Online, and make the entry of data for fieldwork tasks like this much easier than ever before. There are other ways of doing it, which I'll briefly mention at the end, but I recommend people use this. First of all, it gives some very key instructions about entering the data to your students. I'll just wanted to reiterate a couple of them. First of all, this is a quality of life survey. It's all very much about people's views and opinions, so it's not based on any sort of factual data or information that they need to measure in any way. The questions in many cases refer to the area you live in, and this is ambiguous, but we kind of vaguely defining it as somewhere you could walk within about a 5-minute walk from your home. So we're talking about the area around your home rather than your home specifically. Pupils might ask, well, if I live in several places, what do I do? Which house shall I do the data on? And particularly if you're a boarding student or a boarding school, you might have issues to consider there. If you think about it, if you're a boarding school and all your students put the dot on the school, and you have 50, 100, whatever dots on your school, you're not going to get any spatial variation, so it's not going to be a great data to analyse. Apart from being able to produce maybe an average for your school. So probably better to suggest that students, if they're boarders, use one of their home addresses to base it on, which may be in another country or another part of the country, which will give more spatial variation. There are other approaches you might decide to take with your students about looking at different parts of the city you live in or something, but that's up to you. But just bear that in mind to get some spatial variation. I've also said that if people live in several houses, they might choose to repeat it if they wish. They can do it once. They might do it in one parental house, or they might do it in several houses if they so wish, and they just have to repeat the survey. So that hopefully will deal with that issue. And the very final thing they need to really be aware of is they need to locate a point at which to attribute the data answers that they're giving to. The idea is that the data should not be directly on their home. The idea is to try and keep the students' identities kind of anonymous, as it were, and the responses anonymous. And so the idea again is that they can place a dot away from their home, so they may start off by finding their home on the map, but then placing the actual data some distance away from it, maybe several houses away or a couple of streets away or whatever. The data will still be valid for that 5-minute distance approximately from their home, to the extent the data is relevant to that. Okay, and finally, don't forget to tell them to submit the data at the end. The data can be entered any time between the 17th to 22nd of November, and I know some students towards the start putting in a little bit of data before. At the end of the day, it's about getting people to participate rather than stick to rigidly to arbitrary rules. But the idea is to try and focus people's activities during this week. Okay, so this is the actual form itself that they enter, so they'll put a school name in. So it's useful, it's not essential if everyone gets this wrong in your school, but the only reason for putting this is that should you at some stage want to only look at your school's data or school's results, then you could theoretically filter all this world's data just to your schools and look at that data. So I could put in RHSB for Royal High School Bath, or I could put the full wording in, and so on. And you can imagine that if students are writing this, they might write it in different ways. They might do typing errors. They might put Royal High School but not Bath. And so if you're filtering, it becomes tricky. So if you can tell your students to put the same thing in, that's great. So I might tell my students to put something like that in. If they don't, like I say, it's not a disaster. It's just should schools wish to filter data, but it's not an essential component of the study. Year of birth, obviously, you may wish students to enter this or not as you choose. So you can put a date of entry in like that. Gender as well. So again, if you want, or the student wants to leave these questions out, that's absolutely fine. But the idea was to get students to think about data collection methodologies and potential for maybe sub-filtering data at a later stage if they want to analyse it by age or gender. And then the questions are all on the same system, on a scale of 1 to 10, how peaceful and quiet are the streets you live in. 10 equals very peaceful and quiet, so I might say, for my area it might be a 7 out of 10 or whatever. Again, we want to try and reiterate to students to use the right numbers here, because if someone does a typo and puts in something like that, it does create some problems with the data that we have to clean up afterwards. So they enter these answers, how clean do you feel the areas, and so on. As you can see, these are very subjective decisions, but it is a quality of life survey, a perception survey, and so again, it's important to make students aware of that. So they can enter any of these. They wish. It would be great if they entered them all. They can always leave some blank if they so choose, but hopefully they'll enter most of them, if not all of them. Then the last thing to do, and it's important, is to select the location. You can see here these are some test data that teachers or students already put in just before the event started. But they can use current location. That will zoom them in if they're doing it at school into the school site. But remember, of course, they need to be clear that not necessarily putting in their data at the school site unless they live at school, and I've talked about that issue before if they're boarders. So they then would have to move their location. They could use a search button here, so they can use postcodes or zip codes. So I'll just put in my school, for example, here, and this is a quick way of zooming into my location. So it happens I live relatively near school, so I can correct this quite easily, move around to my home location, pick the marker up and move it to wherever I wish, zoom into the map till I've got a good enough sort of view to judge where my home is, my location is, and so on. And but for other students, they can use their own postcode. But like I say, if let's say that was their home and they use their postcode, do remind students the idea is that they would then move that marker a little bit away, so that it would kind of anonymise the data a bit. So they can put it somewhere like this, let's say, or something like this. Their responses should still refer to that region. And the important thing at the end is to do the submit entry at the very end. So I'll submit this one and delete it later. And at the end it says, thank you very much for doing that. And there you go. And once you've done that, you'll notice the form goes completely blank again, which means that should a student want to enter the data a second time, they can do that. So that's the basic way of entering data onto this GIS record event. And hopefully we'll get our 30,000 or so students entering data around the world and get a huge data set, which would be great. I'll give some other tutorials about how to follow this up following, but just before I finish on this one, I thought I might just also explain if you wanted to go into putting the data directly into ArcGIS Online, for those of you who prefer that route or want students particularly to be using that. So I'll just start from the beginning of this, ArcGIS. So if I type in www.arcgis.com, this is the site I get. I'm going to do this without even signing in, so that I can show everyone how to do this even without subscriptions. So I put in local data mapper as my search here, because that's the name that we've given the layer to which all this world record data is going into, and this comes up. It's come up as only one result. If you get more results that come up, then this is the one you really want to look for. This is what it looked like. This is what the image of it looks like. It's produced by Esri UK team. It was modified on the 4th of November 2014. Sometimes if lots of things come up, then sorting by date might help, but it looks like it's the only one that's come up anyway. So if I click on that, and it will open a brand new map with this layer in it, which will contain all the, as I said, I showed you before, these initial sort of bits of data, test data that someone's put in, including the one I just put in just now into Bath. Let's zoom in a little bit more. So here's some data in Bath, and there you go. That's the one I just put in now. Earlier in this tutorial, you can see that's incomplete. I can show you another thing that might be useful here. Link to it. If I click Edit, and should I have put in a data by mistake or had an error in it, I can correct the error here. So if I put in sort of 99 for air and it should be 9, then I can make that correction straight away, or I can even delete that record, which I'll do now since it was complete nonsense. So that's the basic principle there of editing. But if I wanted to add a feature as well, so if this is how it came up to start with, as you can see, you've got the same sort of options for looking for addresses, zooming into places, and on this case I would click the edit button up here. It gives me the feature. I click new feature. I decide where I want my feature on the map, and again I can move it again, reiterating the idea of not being on student's home, and then I just fill this data in like this directly. It's slightly different because of the boy-girl thing. It's not so obvious how to fill it in, so you'd have to give students advice on that. I think it's you just put a 1 in, and then instructions on here as well as to what to do. So peaceful, what do you put in? So we know it's 1 to 10, but again, it wouldn't be so clear. So if you did it this way, you really do need to make sure you explain the criteria and the rules to students, which is why it's slightly more tricky. But for those of you who want to do it that way, it's possible, but as I say, I wouldn't recommend it. As you put the data in, you don't have to save or anything. It's immediately as you put it in saved, and again I'll delete this one as a test. So those are the major ways for entering data into this event. And just to go back to the website, there's also a web app which I produced in order to teach a lesson around this event, which I'll just quickly open. And for those of you who want to go beyond just saying to students, right, here's a 10-15 minute task, put the data in, then this perhaps can guide them through kind of the theory behind doing a quality of life survey, and the actual event itself and participating in it. Again, think about data collection, and when you get to this slide, it's about 6 pages down, then it will actually open the World Data Mapper scroller as well. I think the scrolling doesn't work very well on a tablet from what I've heard, so just be aware of that if you use it that way. But as I say, you've got the other options of how to get to it via the website, but the same principle there. Okay, I hope you find this tutorial useful, and thanks a lot for getting involved and participating in this event. It should produce a lot of interesting and fun data and raise the profile of geography in our schools. Okay, thanks.